Um, Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Focht. I'm the chair of the Iowa County Democrats and a member of the Heart of Iowa team. Thanks for joining us this evening. Really appreciate it. We're Heart of Iowa sharing the hosting duties tonight with the Iowa Women's Caucus, and I'll hand it over to Mary Weaver in just a moment. Before we start, just a few housekeeping items. We're not live streaming, we're recording, and we will load this up to the Heart of Iowa Facebook page and to YouTube following in the next couple of days, as soon as we can get that done. You can also view a transcript of this by selecting live transcription on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. If you have a question this evening, drop it in the chat room and click the chat button on the toolbar. We'll start with questions that were submitted in advance and then get to as many of the chat room questions as we can. Also feel free to drop in the chat room suggestions for speakers and/or topics for future Wednesdays. After I stop talking, I'll drop in the Heart of Iowa Democrats email address and the Facebook page address, and I'll ask Mary to do the same thing for the Women's Caucus. Oh, I don't have the right thing in front of me here. Of course I don't. That would make my life too simple. We have with us this evening Catelin Drey, who just won the special election in Senate District 1, and Janice Weiner, who is the minority leader of the Senate. And just congratulations to both of you. It's just beyond belief that we got this done. Well, not beyond belief. It's great that we got this done.
We knew that we could do it.
Yeah, I know. We all knew you could do it. But it's just such a good thing to have happen. It's giving everybody some energy, and we appreciate that. I want to give a little intro on each of them. I think you probably know a little bit about both of them, but just so you know a little bit more. Catelin grew up in North Dakota, moved to Sioux City to attend Morningside University. She founded Moms for Iowa, which I did not know, a grassroots parent-led advocacy organization, and has been involved in various local organizations and charities, such as Siouxland Growth Organization. In 2025, the incumbent Republican state senator died, and there was a special election called for August 26th. Catelin announced a campaign focused on accessible childcare, funding public education, protecting bodily autonomy, and supporting economic equality. As we all know, she won by a 10-point margin. Janice was born in Iowa City, raised in Coralville. She went to Princeton and Stanford, and then worked for 26 years in the United States Foreign Service. Upon retirement, she came back to Coralville, and that's when I met her. I had the pleasure of meeting her when she was a field organizer for Hillary Clinton in that campaign. She first ran for public office in 2016, didn't win that race, ran again for a Senate seat, and did not win that. She began campaigning for the state Senate seat she now holds in District 45 in November 2021, and then won the general election. On November 22nd, she was elected Senate Minority Leader. So that's a little bit about the two of them. Mary Weaver, our moderator for tonight, is a former public health nurse and activist, and she also serves as the chair of the IDP Women's Caucus. Take it away, Mary.
Okay, thank you, Kathy, for arranging this, and for our guests. We are so excited, and you can tell by the number of participants that we have other people that are excited too. You've given us a breath of fresh air into Iowa. We have 16 questions that were presented by the people as they registered. And Janice, we're going to go to you, Senator Weiner, and let you say a few remarks, and then we're going to go right to the questions. So Janice, take it away.
First of all, thank you so much for having us. I think we think of ourselves a little bit right now as purveyors of hope, because we know it can be done. And we in the Democrats in the state Senate have now shown you twice that it can be done. Once on the Mississippi in Clinton County, and once on the Missouri in Woodbury County. But the only message that I wanted to give before we move into Q&A is these special elections are huge opportunities. They're huge opportunities both to sort of get new people in, like Catelin and like Senator Mike Zimmer. But they're also great county party organizing and grassroots organizing and volunteer recruitment opportunities because they sort of we're able to show people it's as I like to say, it's proof of concept. This is how you do it. This is how you talk to your neighbors, and we're out talking to our regular voters who don't often get knocked because we sort of expect them to go out and vote. So having those conversations, letting them know that we value them, their views and their votes, I think is also a great way to build the local infrastructure of the party. So these, even though they're a sprint and a lot of hard work, I think these special elections are great opportunities for us to build our party, our Iowa Democratic Party.
Good remarks. Thank you. Before we get to that, some of the questions, what did Janice, does it mean that now the supermajority is broken? I just want us to have a basic understanding of that.
Where it takes in the state Senate, it takes 34 votes to confirm any gubernatorial appointment. Until now, the Republicans have had those 34 votes, and they didn't need to depend on us for anything. The fact that they no longer will have 34 automatic votes means we can exercise some power, and probably not just in the area of appointments, because there will be appointments that need to be filled. I've heard rumors that perhaps the head of HHS may be moving on. We know that the head of Department of Administrative Services is no longer there because he's running for governor. There are important seats to be filled. And so one of the things that has struck me in my several years, just 3 sessions, is this lack of balance and the complete disregard for what a big chunk of people in the state think and care about. And that's coming to an end. And we saw that reflected in the Senate District 1 race as well, where there was a lot of hubris at play, I believe, in terms of how they would run the campaign, what they would run the campaign with, that they could, again, for the second time, choose a super far right conspiracy theorist, just as they did over in Clinton County, and they would just be able to do whatever they wanted. No, they can't.
Yes.
So it will make a difference, and it starts to give us the sense that we can have a voice, and they can't count us out.
Good. That's good. Catelin, you broke that monopoly. Why did you decide to become a candidate?
Well, I think it's okay for me to tell this story. I've been praised for my authenticity, so I'm just gonna lay it out there for you. Um, what happened was about 2 years ago, you mentioned when I started Moms for Iowa, right? And that was primarily an advocacy group dedicated to mobilizing parents in making better policy and being aware of the policy that affects them and their kids or their, aging parents, whatever that might look like. And one of the tactics or things that I was encouraging people to do at that time, and still, right, was emailing and calling their elected officials. So whether that's at the state or federal level. And the last while, time has kind of turned into a jumble for me. But I think it was 2 sessions ago, and Senator Weiner, please feel free to correct me, where the discussion of arming school staff and teachers came up, and that bill was being debated. And the Republican senator that I replaced owned a gun store. He was like a literal arms dealer. And I emailed him and I said, this policy is disgusting and not based in any evidence or good faith. More guns don't make us safer. And he emailed back and said, I won't be doing anything that what is it, violates the Second Amendment, like people's Second Amendment rights. And I was like, that's not what this is. Like, literally, no teachers are like, what I need is a handgun. Nobody's asking for that. And so he emailed back. He was very rude and dismissive to me at the time, and I've come to find that that was maybe just the way in which Senator DeWitt existed in the world. I didn't know him personally, but I thought to myself at that time, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna take your seat. I'm gonna I'm gonna like take your job because you are so bad at it." And obviously that, that seed was planted, and wasn't planning on doing that until, 2026 or after. And then unfortunately he passed away. Pancreatic cancer is an ugly, horrific disease, but really 2 years ago, thinking back, like, oh, I can do a better job than this guy. And so now I'm going to.
Good.
I'm sure you will. And this is sort of like off track a little bit.
Yeah.
But the first year that bill was brought forward, I went and talked to the insurance lobby and I said,
Horrifying.
who's going to insure any schools that decide to do
None.
this? And they
None.
said, actually, both the last years, like, nobody talked to us. That means, and we work with the organization that insures most schools, which means it's performative and it's not going to happen.
Mhm. I think we'll switch over to the questions. We have, I think I told you, 16 questions. Tim from Mason City says, what role did social media play in your campaign? Caitlin, do you want to respond to that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was integral for me. That's the space that I'm used to occupying, right? Moms for Iowa was an online community where I spent a couple, sometimes a couple hours, but a few minutes a day just engaging with people, talking to them a little bit about what's going on in my life, or, here's how the decrease in Medicare funding can affect you even if you're not using Medicare. And here's what it looks like to call your representatives, and what you should say, and how that might go. And so it was really important to me to be able to continue doing that. And that voice, I asked Tyler Redenbaugh really early on. I said, I don't know how else to be, other than the voice that I've had on Moms for Iowa, because that's me. Like, that's just me being the person that I am in the world. And I was like, is that okay? Can I just translate that into this new, social media presence? And he said, yeah, I think that's great, which was the right answer. Because I was like, otherwise, I don't know what I'm supposed to say when I get up there. And so, yeah, it was crucial. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about as I've been kind of, I don't know, is it the circuit, doing this, the press circuit, is just the need for authentic communication at every level, and to our constituents, to voters, just speaking to them as if we are all human, and not doing the kind of over researched, over practiced talking points. And it can be scary to try and step outside of that bubble, but I think we'll have to see more of that as we move towards midterms, and even now, when we get into session. So
There's another piece of that, which is like an absence of social media. And I would say, like, the first clue that we were going to be interacting with someone who was super far right was that 45 minutes after his name was announced, he wiped his social media.
everything was gone.
Fortunately, everything was gone. Fortunately, we were on it and we had taken a whole bunch of screenshots, so we had the receipts. But you don't wipe your social media unless you don't want people to see who you are.
Mhm. How many open seats will there be, Janice, in the Senate?
Open seats. That is, I mean, there are 25 seats up every 2 years. And it's this year, it will be, if you pull up the LSA Legislative Services Agency map of Iowa, if you Google Iowa Senate seats, Iowa State Senate seats, it's all the odd numbered seats that are up in 2026. So, I'm up we have a number of safe incumbents who are up. The two new folks, Senator Zimmer and Senator-elect Drey, will also be up. Our top target, we already know, will be Ankeny. which is a seat we should have won 4 years ago. And there are others as well. There's a candidate who's about to launch formally in Bettendorf tomorrow evening. Somebody else is going to launch in Grimes on October 1st, I believe. So we're in the process of recruiting candidates. So I will use this as my recruiting pitch. I don't have the map in front of me, but if you look at it and you see, including in the super rural areas, if it's an odd numbered seat, and you know someone who might be interested in running, even if they think they can't win, we need to have a voice there. We need to be having those conversations with voters, and they deserve a choice.
Good. There's a question. The next one is from Ellen from Monticello. She says, will you make water quality a priority? Caitlin, we'll start with you and then go to Janice to see what the big picture will be. Caitlin, go ahead.
Yes. There's not another option, right? Yeah, but please, Senator Weiner, yeah.
Yeah, no, my answer is yes as well. It has been since I first started campaigning for the Senate, even though some folks said, like, no, it's not. So like, everybody deserves clean water, and it's become more and more of a salient issue. We cannot ignore it, and I believe it will be one of our focal points this coming session and going into the 2026 campaign.
Do you think there's a direct link, and I don't want to give you too much, but give you my own perceptiveness of it and perception, but I think that it's linked to the high rate of cancer that we have in Iowa. Are you going to try to combine those two things, or how will that strategize out?
We have yet to have those conversations. I would say likely yes, but we're going to put together probably 4 different working groups with senators and staff and campaign folks, and in the fall, and come up with our major issues. Hopefully, they will be also a little bit poll tested as well, so that we know which ones, which are the ones that folks will really folks really care about. Because one of the other things that we definitely have learned from Caitlin's campaign and from Mike Zimmer's campaign is, not only do you get a really superb local candidate who's well embedded in the district, but they have to be part of picking their issues. Excuse me, I have a visitor in the room.
Hi, Alaska. Campaign girl, for those of you that might follow Senator Weiner's Facebook page.
Okay. One of the questions is from Jan in Knoxville. What messages seem to resonate most with voters? And while we're asking that, there's a question also from Peg and Carol. What did you do and what can we do to entice younger voters? So maybe you can answer both of those questions in your response. Janice, are you still with your person, or shall we go to you first?
I mean, I would say talk to Caitlin. Did the most work on the doors. I mean, I was out in Sioux City knocking, but Caitlin knocked way more doors than I did. So she has some direct experience now.
Yeah, I think what made the biggest difference is, again, like, being in the ether of online and talking to people before being a candidate, right? We have seen the tariffs affect the cost of groceries. We have seen the tariffs affect the cost of home goods and things that we need to, like, survive. At the same time, we've also seen healthcare, housing, childcare in the state of Iowa get less accessible and more expensive. And those things resonate with people across ages, across race, across language. When people want to build a life in Iowa, they need to be able to afford it. And so that kept coming up, and meeting people with the humility to say, like, yeah, your life has probably gotten hard, or been hard and gotten harder after the last, if you want to say the last 6 months, you can, or after the last, couple of years. Like, things have only gotten more expensive, and our wages have not kept pace with that. When you talk about engaging younger voters, I'm curious, what, and this is where it becomes more of a conversation, right? Um, and this is not to denigrate the audience. I'm not seeing a lot of young people here, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for wanting to spend an evening with me. Um, but I'm curious, like, what that participation looks like in your local county parties, or if there are folks that are raising their hand and maybe being told to, like, that's not how we do it. Or, I think we have to start having that conversation is like, that's not what we've done in the past. Here's how this actually works. Some of those, like, wait your turn kind of platitudes, if you will, and it's certainly never to be intentionally dismissive, right? I want to be very clear about that no one ever has bad intentions around that. But it can really dissuade people from wanting to participate. The other thing that is hard right now is if you have kids, it's really tricky to make a 7 p.m. meeting work. That's the middle of bedtime, especially now that we're back at school. And so yeah, I think there has to be an extension. The last thing that I'll say about this is that I remember it was after last fall when we were all feeling quite dejected and wondering what the hell we were supposed to be doing now. Um, Someone at our central committee meeting in January or February said, well, we just can't get young people to join. They just don't care. And I'm like, that's not true at all. Young people, especially like engaged, active voters, care much more about issues than they do about identifying with a party. And so when you can mobilize around issues and mobilize around, right, they're much more hesitant to say, like, I'm going to register as a Democrat right now. And so when we talk about engaging volunteers, you have to maybe shift that conversation to say, like, how do we push this policy? How do we support this policy? Because the party has the infrastructure to do those things, right? We have the voter data, we have the canvassing tools, we have some of the expertise that is necessary to have those conversations on the doors. But yeah, it's
To
mobilizing
interrupt for a
around
minute.
issues. Please.
Yeah, because speaking of kids, mine let one of our dogs out and I have to go and try and chase the dog down. Um, which is, but one of the things that really impressed me from the get-go with the Woodbury County Dems was the mix.
Mhm.
There are younger people in it. There are younger people who've been volunteering. There are some of the folks who've been there a long time and they're still active. And there is a good core of younger people. And I'm sure that your activism and your work on social media and your ability to draw them in that way with just who you are and some of your messaging is really key to that. But anyway, please excuse me. I'll be back as soon as I can.
I hope you find that dog. Goodness. One of the questions coming out of Corydon is, Catelin, how much was spent on this race from your donors, from IDP, was there any from the Democratic National Committee? Can you talk to us about that?
I don't have a final list of expenditures. I would encourage you to look at the ethics board filings that my treasurer worked very diligently on. I'm so sorry that I don't have like a good sturdy number around that. It's been a week and I'm traveling for work. So I had next to zero time to catch my breath and figure out some of those things. But I will say the dog has been located.
A neighbor caught her and put her in our backyard. Thank
Nice
goodness we're
job,
good neighbors.
neighbor. It's
Good
yep, that's why you take
neighbor.
yep, good neighbors. Um, is Senator Weiner, the question is around how much was spent on the race, and I don't have a good answer. I have a fundraising number I can share, but
I
yeah.
mean, I think I mean, it was not as political races go. Our races in Iowa, are, at least outside of the Des Moines metro, are not hyper expensive. By point of comparison, I think we spent about $65,000 in January on the Zimmer race, which is like super cheap for to flip a Trump plus 21 seat. This one, everybody was more focused on because everybody knew the symbolism. Everybody knew that this is the seat that could break the supermajority. So I think the number I heard the other day in a meeting is maybe around $140,000 or $50,000 on our part.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And more on their part. But we because this was sort of a race that caught people's attention. We got money in from organizations that haven't given for quite a while. I talked the DLCC, the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, into giving to this race because it would break the supermajority. They haven't given to us for a race for like as long as anybody can remember. And so I was
at least 10 years is
like,
I think the
I
last.
was really desperate for, among other things, like for a whole variety of reasons, because I didn't want this other guy in the Senate to deal with. It was clear to me that if Catelin managed to win, that would also be a good marker with them and with a variety of other organizations that helped us for future races. So we had it. Like we didn't have to dig into other reserves, and because our members understood, but the other members of the Democratic Senate caucus understood the importance of this, I was able to say to them, like, give me some of your campaign money, contribute to that to the Senate Majority Fund. I put in virtually everything that was in my campaign committee, so that we were plussing up because we knew that it mattered.
One of the questions that popped up in the chat regarding this, it says Republicans love to attack that the DNC put 30,000 volunteers into this race. I have no idea if that's true. Or did the R's put in, what do we know what the R's put in as far as money and people? Do you guys know that?
He had really sad fundraising numbers, like just him as a candidate, but he paid canvassers, so they didn't have the ground game volunteers. They paid like $20,000. Yeah.
I think they spent around $180,000 on the race is my guess, because there was a lot of, they got a bunch of money from the state Republicans. So it's I'm sorry, like I'm still slightly distracted by the kid in the background. But
it's the story of my life.
So yeah, I can't remember what the rest of the question was. Sorry, I got to close the door again.
Okay.
What I would say just really quickly on the finance side is, as a candidate, we were able to raise over $150,000. The last number was like close to $170,000, which is wild. And the other thing that the Republicans really wanted to hit on was a lot of that money came from out of state, to which I would say, is money not speech?
So you had asked, you mentioned, you talked about the DNC. The answer is, while we got money from folks all over, including lots of folks in Iowa, this was a homegrown organizing ground game, homegrown organized ground game. We hired one organizer who was on the ground all the time. And the head of the Senate Majority Fund, Tyler Redenbaugh, was there almost, I would think, basically every weekend.
It was.
Those were the only paid people who were there regularly. It's not like we had this, and to the point, I love Ken Martin, but they did nothing. Except, I like to say, to sort of flip the script a little bit, that success has 1,000 mothers. So, everybody wanted their part in this. If we won, and everybody needed this shot in the arm, they just didn't need to claim credit because they didn't do it.
Okay.
The team with me and everything. How many? 17,000 doors.
So over 17,000 doors, almost 30,000 phone calls, and part of that was one of the partners that came on early, with money, but more importantly with phone banking. And so we had Sister District Project making phone calls. Honestly, I think it was like every day. They had a phone bank going every day, and just in the last weekend of phone calls. Oh no, that was doors. The last weekend of doors when Johnson County and Polk County came kind of together. More Polk.
It was really
Geography is
Polk that
Polk.
organized it,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep. Um, we were able to find 800 new supporters, like that we
Wow.
had not identified it, because we were able to expand the universe so much, knowing that we had such incredible volunteers coming to knock doors. So
So
it made a big difference.
when you said 800 new, were those registered Democrats or were you registering people?
I don't know that we registered very many new people. I did have one freshly 18-year-old person reach out on social media and say, "This is my first election that I'm going to get to vote in, and I'm really excited to vote for you," which man, like that's a you talk about a shot in the arm,
Yeah.
and still just like full body goosebumps, because like what an honor to have
Yeah.
somebody say they're excited to vote for you in their first election.
Right. So that last weekend, the final weekend was like 5,700 doors, I want to say. Is that correct? It was like, there was
I
really,
feel like yes.
it was just an almost
Yeah.
obscene number of doors that were knocked. And it was through that knocking, because the Polk County Dems and Senator Blake and some others organized, and Senator Blake raised the money, and they brought a busload of like 44 mostly experienced canvassers up.
Oh yeah.
The Woodbury County Dems organized the drivers. And that was really key, because the drivers know Sioux City, they know the area. They were each assigned to, I think, two canvassers. So that worked really well. We fed them, we feted them, and they went out and knocked. And that particular weekend, as opposed to the weekend before, we could not have asked for better weather.
The weather was amazing. It was so good.
As opposed to the weekend before, when we all baked to death, or
Just
we're
like
in a large 100-degree sauna.
we were in the sauna. We were treating it like a spa treatment. We were just cleansing our pores,
Good.
sweating out the toxins, as the healthy folks want to say. Yeah.
While we're talking about door knocking, Ralph from Ames says, was door knocking targeted to Democrats who vote often? Was there any targeting to no party voters? Was there a sense of anti-Trump impact?
Mm. We targeted good Democrats, right? I think any Democrat is a good Democrat, but reliably voting Democrats, and Democrat leading independents or no party. We would on occasion have conversations with Republicans who are in households, um, just by nature of, knocking on the door and talking to whoever shows up to open the door for you. Um, so mostly Democrats, and like I said, mostly people who vote Democrat consistently. But when we were able to expand the universe, that's when we moved from, I think, voting out of like 3 out of the 4 last elections to like
I
1
think,
out of 4.
right. I think it was
Or was
2
it
out of the
2?
last 3, and then we moved it to
It,
1 out of the last 3, because we had all that extra capacity.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. But in terms of like whether or not Trump factored, I think the folks that we were talking to were disillusioned with that anyway. And when we started talking to less people who were less likely to turn out, it was more state policy and Kim Reynolds' unpopularity, I think, that factored um in the conversations that I had. I don't know if that rings true for you as well, Senator Weiner, or if yeah.
I mean, I think that that your opponent and the GOP tried to nationalize it. And that's one of
Hmm.
the other beauties of a special election, is you really can't. There's no other top of the ticket. It's just the 2 candidates and that district, and the specific issues that people care about in that district. And so their negative ads try to paint Caitlin as this like weird pro illegal immigration. It's like, who cares? First of all, it was ridiculous. And secondly, that wasn't part of the conversation at all. So they thought that if they sort of tried the playbook that's worked for them in other forms of elections, it might work. And one other thing that we did that we will continue to work very hard to do is get as much earned media as possible.
One of the questions is, did the geographic portion of Sioux City in this district play a strong role in your showing? Like there wasn't Morningside area or the southern part of Sioux City. Is that correct, Caitlin?
Yeah, so it's basically Highway 20 north to the county line, and then Missouri River to just in between like Lawton and Mobile. This is the map in my head that you're seeing here. Backwards for you, but I I don't think so. I think I if Morningside had been included, I think it still would have been a good flip. I don't know. Is that the question?
Yeah, that was the question.
Okay. I was like, I don't know. I don't think it really factored. I think what did one of the things that I really wanted to prioritize, just knowing that it was West Side, Midtown, some, near North Side. I just assume that nobody cares about Sioux City's geography because it's a very like Sioux City pride thing. But since we're asking, was prioritizing Spanish language communication. I'm bilingual, and it was important to me for the website and some of our advertising to be available and done in Spanish. And so I do think that helped. I haven't looked at the social metrics for what performed well, but it's not often that you see a nearly 6 foot tall white woman coming to you through your phone speaking in Spanish about how to vote and why it's important and where to go. And so I think that also made a difference.
Yeah, I was really happy you did that, Caitlin. I was a huge proponent of it. I'm not sure that the rest of the campaign thought it was a great idea, but I thought we got it. I spoke more Spanish knocking doors there than I have spoken in a long time. And some when I was on the phones after I had to come home because school was going to start, making calls, left some messages in Spanish for people. It's like it's a necessity. And not just Spanish. Unfortunately, I don't speak Vietnamese, and I ran into some we had a variety of sort of pantomime conversations at the doors as well.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that will be a priority for me as well into 2026 is getting the site translated into at least one, but potentially two or three more languages, because voting is different in every other country, right? It's different in Central America to South America to, East Africa, West Africa, like all of those places have different electoral policies, and explaining how it works is hard even for English speakers to understand. So I think those demographics play more than geographic in Sioux City.
One of the questions is about, will you talk about the specifics of what you and your team did and said to convince conservative voters in your district to vote for you?
Caitlin can answer this but in a special election like this, you're not doing a lot of persuasion doors. You're knocking mostly friendly doors, and as Caitlin noted, we householded. So on our list, there were also Republicans who were in the same household. So we talked to some of them and probably persuaded some of them. And some households were split. That's the job that really starts now, is being out in the community and talking to the folks we didn't talk to, and doing the work of starting to persuade.
Yeah. And that will be my homework from now until I think forever, is to get out. Tyler's working on a plan to start talking to persuasion voters as well.
One of the questions that is from Des Moines, Peggy is asking, did you do early voting, and was that impactful in terms of
Yes.
absentee
I mean,
voting and
we mailed an absentee ballot request to every household that we were initially targeting. I think they had us beat in ballots requested. I don't know where we shook out in ballots returned. Um, but we did prioritize like early vote. The other thing that we really wanted to do was early voting satellite locations. And we were able to host, I guess we didn't host, but we were able to secure 3 additional kind of satellite areas in those good turnout neighborhoods. And again, with like non-traditional hours. So 2 of those locations were open until 7 p.m. during the week, which was really, really helpful for people who maybe work 9 to 5s or whatever that looks like. So yeah, early voting
And one
was huge.
right. It was, and one was on a Saturday. I mean,
Mhm.
we did this also in the Zimmer race. We had 2 satellite. We got the signatures for 2 satellite sites, which is yet another way to talk to people in an unthreatening way. Just sign so we can get another voting place in your neighborhood. I mean, it's one of those crazy things that probably never should have been passed through the legislature, but it's another way to talk to folks. So I guess the piece that surprised me, I'm not sure who all was on the Zoom, is that the Republicans have not done that. I thought perhaps they would do it at they would decide to do one at a megachurch. They didn't.
Our county auditor is a Republican. That's semi-related, Susan. The other thing that I would say is like I just started telling people the earlier you vote, the earlier we'll leave you alone. Because it was like, if you vote, no one's gonna call you. We're not gonna text you. I will not come back to knock on your door. Like, and it's that same like kind of messaging too, is like just be funny about it, because it is like nobody wants to answer the phone again, right? Just like if you go vote tomorrow, we will not call you again until next year.
This is I'm a rural person, and I apologize. I'm not sure how Jareen says her name, but she says,
Yes.
what do you see as the greatest barriers as Democrats to communicating with Iowans in our rural areas? Are we using all the potential strategies? Are we missing and underutilizing effective communication? Janice, maybe I'll let you respond to that first, because Caitlin, people in Rippey, Iowa, where I live, don't really think that Sioux City, we think it's a metropolitan area. So talk about the rural areas.
Like the people in Lawton don't think that they're metropolitan, I don't think. And I mean, Caitlin can talk to you about knocking in Lawton, because I'm not sure it's really been knocked very often before in recent years by Democrats.
Multiple people said this is the first time a candidate has shown up at my door.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
We did that in January in frigid cold weather in every small town in Clinton County. And Susan Steffen was on, like the Scott County Dems did the same thing for that part, for the northern Scott County portion of Senate District 35. And in both races, particularly in this one, but I know the Scott County Dems got through their universe twice. I think we got through the universe in Sioux City twice, which is also helpful, because anybody who's knocked doors knows that not everybody's home. And
Right.
you leave those, there's still not everybody home. So a second pass through, you get, you don't knock on the doors of folks you actually did talk to, and you get another bite at that apple of talking to more folks. But I mean, in Clinton County in particular, you have to get out and listen to everybody. And to me, it's more about listening, which is why now that the special election is over, we are starting to get organized to go out and do more listening post / town halls around the state to get out to areas where we don't currently have Democratic senators to listen to folks.
One of the other questions is that what are the 3 key issues on a voter's minds? Caitlin, what were you finding that were the 3 key issues?
Yeah. public school funding, right? A rate that keeps pace with or exceeds inflation. That's going to be critical. We had to kind of dance around the voucher conversation a little bit just because Heelan is a big private school and Siouxland Christian is growing. Um, and may I tell just like a funny little anecdote about private school vouchers? This is
Sure.
my husband's. So I had a conversation at a gathering prior to the election with someone who, based on their employment and professions, should be fairly well off. One dentist and one doctor in the family. And after some sleuthing, discovered that they have 4 children that they're sending to private school. And he told me that he was really glad to be benefiting from the vouchers. And I relayed this information to my husband slash unpaid intern slash communications director. And he said, if you can't find $30,000 to send your kid to private school when you are probably clearing $500,000 at the minimum, you need to go back to school and learn how to do math because that's embarrassing. And it's like, okay. So that's yeah. But the other issues really go back to affordability, like we talked about at the top of the hour. Housing, healthcare, childcare.
We have questions just rolling in like mad. Kathy, let me ask you, should I be tossing it back to you now, or should we let the questions go on a little bit longer?
No, it's only 10 till. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. One of the things that Glenn is asking, Glenn lives in Amana. What people and organizations provided support for your campaign? You talked about the donors that you had and the volunteers, but did you have any particular companies or groups that came in to give you financial assistance as well as volunteer labor?
No companies, but yeah, please go ahead.
No, the thing that I wanted to say, particularly since she said Amana, before we sort of drill down on this, there are people from all over the state who helped. There are people in Iowa County who wrote, I think, 500 postcards. People like overwrote postcards, made calls. Those who were able to came and knocked doors. Some gave money, some gave larger amounts, some gave smaller amounts. This was an all Iowa effort. And it was, and so everybody here owns it. Really grateful to everyone who helped, whether you wrote a postcard or made a phone call.
Yeah. In terms of like not larger, but yeah, I guess larger dollar donations, we had some money, I think, from Main Street Alliance, which is a newer organization trying to revitalize main streets across the country. They're started in Wisconsin, but I met one of their, I don't even know his job title, but I was introduced to him through one of the other internet moms, who's in Wisconsin. We had, like I said, money and volunteer support from Sister District Project. Vote Mama came on board as a kind of consultant, but also with a contribution. The States Project was a significant supporter financially, but really, truly, just the volunteer effort and the lion's share of the work was done by people in Iowa and people in Woodbury County. I mean, when you talk about on the ground support, like we have a very robust volunteer effort. Um, yeah, Sister District was great. I'm just watching the chat. But we canvassed all of last cycle, and so a lot of those people came back and brought some friends with them, and that was really, really impactful. So
yeah, the trade unions also helped.
oh yes, thank you, of course. Oh my gosh,
CIO, AFSCME gave money, the Iowa teachers and so forth, but and
plumbers
the
and
unions
steam fitters,
right,
yes.
right, and the unions did what they always do, which is their union to union doors, which are, we don't know which ones they are necessarily. I think there were 700 households that they came up to knock on their own. So union folks talking, union sisters and brothers talking to other union sisters and brothers.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah. Honestly, like it's hard for me to remember unless I have the
Yeah.
full list because it was
Yeah.
just such a robust, exciting kind of sprint. Yeah.
Garrett is asking a really basic question that every campaign wants to know: how they choose and decide who is your campaign manager, who is your secretary, and who is your treasurer. Did you go with family? Did you find friends, colleagues? How did that work, Catelin?
I did not have an official like declared campaign manager on the campaign side. Tyler from the Senate Majority Fund stepped up to fill that role just because it was going to be such a sprint and he has the requisite experience and then some. I asked my very best friend to be my campaign treasurer because she is the most detail-oriented, granular, nitty-gritty person that I know. And when I initially signed up to run, or decided to run, I said it should be pretty minimal. Uh, I
Pages
apologize to
and
her
pages.
so
Yes.
many times. I'm like, Whitney, I'm so sorry because we had like thousands of donors in Act Blue alone. And then just so I was like, I'm very sorry that this is more than you signed up for. And she's like, it's great. I'm like, it is great, but also this is overwhelming as all get out. And so
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
it was not going to work. But I will
And
also say that Brecken from the Senate Majority Fund as well was instrumental in making sure that we met our reporting deadlines. And honestly, I was very hands off in that. Whitney and Brecken handled all of that like absolute pros. Um,
and we,
so yeah.
yeah. And we as the Senate Majority Fund hired an organizer to be there on the ground throughout the campaign.
Mhm.
So and when he wasn't calling for or recruiting or volunteers or cutting turf he was out knocking
He
himself.
was out. He walked through a pair of shoes. Like he retired the tennis shoes that he wore for the campaign. As soon as he like knocked his last door on election night, he changed his shoes. And he's like, I'm gonna save these. He's like, I'm gonna save every pair of shoes that I have. Yeah, he was actually. I think he was more annoyed, like when he had to be doing office work, because he's like, I just want to be out there pounding the pavement. He was so good. So,
Hmm. Well, we're going to conclude and then toss it back to Kathy. But Janice, what was the most joyous thing that you felt
oh,
during this campaign?
The most joyous thing that what? Sorry?
That you felt?
When that bus of door knockers arrived a week and a half,
honestly,
just over a week and a half ago on Saturday, and we had all the local Woodbury folks out who were going to be driving them, so forth, waiting to meet them. It was a party. It was so exciting, and obviously, you cannot beat watching the returns come in on election night. The I was in Iowa City, not there. I would have loved to have been there. Could not be there then, but I knew you were going to win when I was comparing which were the Republican precincts in the last election, and when you won 2 Republican precincts and came within 1 vote on another normally heavy Republican precinct, I said, "We've got this. We're going to win."
it happened so fast. I was expecting like it was like 8:30, and
Yeah,
we
no,
knew.
it's if this is one county, you're fortunate it was just one county. The Zimmer race, we had to wait a long time for Scott
Oh
County.
gosh, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it just, yeah, it happened so fast. So that's such a beautiful question, Mary. I don't think we spend enough time celebrating that. Yeah, that
Well,
joy.
And it
Caitlin,
was, that to me was like, I was walking like Blue Johnson County, right? I'm walking down the street here a couple of days later. And I've been going to events and I keep having people stop me and saying, "You gave us hope.
uh,
Mm.
you have sort of helped refill our, whatever it is that's been running low. We needed that. It's like, well, we can keep doing it. We've done it twice now. We can keep doing it, because while, and I think this is a part of a question earlier, while special elections are not general elections, they give us a very important clue about what the voters are focused on and what they care about. And if we keep going out, talking to them and bringing that message, while unfortunately our Republican colleagues are sort of focused on issues that are not popular for the most part, and have rammed through policies that most Iowans don't want,
Or don't, yeah.
It feels like that's finally starting to come home to roost.
Ladies, thank you. And we have 44 people that stayed with us the whole time. Lots of
I
really
can't
good
imagine
questions.
anyone wanting to listen to me talk for that long. Thank you all so much.
You better hope somebody wants to listen to you when you get to the morning.
Yeah.
Mary, so very quickly, I just see this, Mary, this,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much. But my best friend's birthday was also August 26th. And the night that I was nominated, another good friend was at the nominating convention. And I said, did you know that Whitney's birthday is election day? And he said, let's give her a good birthday present. And that was pretty cool. So happy birthday, Mary. It's a good day for people to be born. Yeah.
Kathy, well, oh, excuse me, Janice, jump in.
The thing that I would leave you all with one final thought. When we go through these things, and we had it, Catelin was nominated in a contested convention. It's people have egos, and it can be tough, but it's incredibly important that we all remember we're working for something bigger, and that we all, after that, set aside our egos and work to start to right the ship that is this state. And that's what happened in Woodbury County.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Kathy, it's your turn to get us out of here. I tried to keep us on time, and there were so many good questions.
I'm trying to get rid of these spotlights here. Thank you all. Thank you, Catelin, Janice, Mary. Once again, thank you. There was my spotlight. Thank you, whoever did that. I think it was Catelin. A reminder that the recording of this event will be available on the Heart of Iowa Facebook page and on YouTube in the next couple of days. I will send out the link to all of you guys that participated, as well as anybody that signed up that couldn't quite make it tonight. Want to advertise our next Heart of Iowa Forum, which is going to be a good one, I think. Wednesday, October 1st, we've invited back Tom Hartman, the National Progressive Political Commentator, to have a conversation with Laura Bellin from Bleeding Heartland. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think we're probably going to make it an Ask Anything kind of event. So it won't be a specific topic because there is so much going on. We'd have to decide the day before if we were going to be specific. Anyway, I'll ask Mary to throw whatever she wants to in the chat room. Mary, if you want to throw in your info for Women's Caucus, that'd be great. And I'll close by encouraging all of you to donate to your county Democratic Party, either on ActBlue or directly, and any candidates that you're excited about. There's a lot of them out there now. That's all. They need money. They're going to need money. They're going to continue to ask for money. So you might as well just give it to them right now. And that's it. Good night from all of us. And let's keep this series going, and let's go flip some seats. Yay.
Let's do it. Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for having us.